So I want to share with you a process or a sequence that I go through to really help me use my oils to move through like emotional situations or emotional patterns. So the month of November is going to be all around boundaries and how they look and how they feel and how to set them, all of these things. But I always tell people that boundaries start within us. And I always imagine that in our comfort zone, we're like in this fabulous bubble. But when we push against the sides of that bubble, it's almost like electrically charged. So it feels really, really uncomfortable when we push up against the edges of it. And we can get like a little bit of feedback. And feedback for us through our emotional body or our nervous system, which I've been talking about this month, can often feel like fear, anxiety, all of these things. And that is where I suppose the biggest boundary that we need to work through is our comfort zone boundary and how to move through that and help us to move our emotional system through that. So I experienced this in a huge way this month, and because this month has been all about going inwards, I thought I'd guide you through the process that I went through. So in September, I made a very big decision to drop doing massage for my business. And so for those of you who don't know, I am a massage therapist and have been for 11 years now. And it has been a massive part of my identity, or what I've said is my identity. I would introduce myself first as being a massage therapist when people ask me what I do, despite all the million and one other titles that I claim to have. So this at the moment for me is like 50 to 60% of my income, which is huge, but it just really, really felt right for me to do it and to make this decision. Even though I had just taken on a new premises this year, I had just hired an executive assistant to manage my business, I had just bought a new car, all of these things. So logically, it didn't make any sense, but it just felt right in my body. And I had a week of feeling so peaceful and so calm and so quiet in my body about this whole decision. When I was telling people, I was laughing. I was like, oh, don't know why, it doesn't make any sense, but I'm doing it anyways. And laughing and thinking it was so hilarious. But as I went to push against those boundaries a little bit further, as can happen, and it's a very human experience, fear and anxiety came up for me in around the second week, okay? So I want to just talk you through the process that I went through to help me to move past that, because I wasn't going to go backwards. I knew the decision was right for me. I knew just this was the mind and the ego stepping in, tried to be my big protective older brother or my mom or whatever you want to call your ego, trying to keep you safe, okay? And I knew that was all it was. I've been down this road many, many times before. So I took out a journal and pen and I took out my box of oils and I sat down with it and I really wanted to see what stories the mind was telling me, okay? So a lot of it was around the fact that I was letting people down, okay? So I was letting my massage clients down. I was running around actually trying to find other therapists on their behalf to recommend them to. And I realized how crazy that was because, you know, like they're adults and I don't need to mind them and I don't need to protect them. But that was how it felt to me, that I was really feeling deeply that I was letting these people down. I was anxious and worried about, you know, like hiring my assistant and, you know, like, would I be able to continue paying her, and would I be able to, you know, keep my car payments, and would I be able to keep my treatment room payments, and like, what was I going to do instead? And all of these stories kept flooding in. And so for me, I had to look at my ego stories around, you know, like what was I calling myself? Was I saying I was a failure for if this wasn't going to work out? If I had to do something different and it didn't work out? All of these things kept coming up and I knew it was just all of these ego stories. So I just literally wrote them all out. And after I did all the writing down, I realized what it was there was no trust there. I wasn't trusting in myself, in my decision. I wasn't trusting in, you know, all the people that were around me. I wasn't trusting in my clients to be able to actually go and find other therapists themselves. I wasn't trusting in the universe's bigger plan that knew that this was the right decision for me. I wasn't trusting, okay? And that was what the emotion came up for me. And I used to have to be very good at identifying my emotions. So if you're still at that stage, I'm going to include a little chart here on a wheel and I want you to go around and look at it and see what's the closest emotion you can identify if this is something that you're experiencing at the moment, because it's different times. Fear and anxiety don't always look like the same things for us. Anger doesn't always look the same, you know, all the rest of it. So it's sometimes good to have this gauge for ourselves. So what I did then was I looked at my box of oils and I reached for geranium, which is all about love and trust. So that's what it was for me in that moment. Now, sometimes I might lean on adaptive for that if I'm feeling like the trust is more control, like I'm trying to push and really kind of go for that. But that wasn't the case in this circumstance. It was just that I wasn't having that faith and that trust. For some people that might be Cyprus again, if it's that you need to kind of relax and flow into it a little bit. But for me, the decision was geranium. So again, I'm not telling you what oil to decide. If you go to your app or your book and you look up the word trust in this scenario, for example, you can have your list of oils, and the same for any emotion that you're feeling. Look up the list of oils and just see what your heart feels. If you have lots of oils, if you only have one, pick the closest one to it and you'll get lots of options for it. And what I did then was, after I'd written all this out, I just applied the geranium over my heart, and I just kept asking the question, how can I trust more, and how can I receive more? And I just kept asking that question over and over. Now, no answers came in the immediate, because that's not typically the way that I get my information. For some people it is. But I just left it at that, and I got up and I kind of went about my life. And over the next day or so, everything kind of shifted for me. Like, I got so many signs for a transformational program to move into, something that had been kind of, like on the back burner all year through coaching and work that I've been doing and investing in. And the people that I needed to help me with were already there in my life. They didn't even need to come in, they were already there. I just wasn't seeing them or didn't know because I wasn't actually putting it out there. And again, all of these little shifts and changes moved me back into that trust. But I just kept asking myself every day, how can I trust more? How can I feel supported more? And really, really embodying and feeling into that emotion of trust. And it was so much easier because I'd written out all the fear stories first. I wasn't trying to block them away. I was actually letting them come up and experiencing them and seeing them what they were and identifying them for what they were. It was literally, like the voice of of our mother typically, or our father, or, these caretakers in our lives who wanted us to keep us safe, and they get embedded in our subconscious. So I hope this has been helpful for you. You can work through this no matter what emotion is coming up for you or what process is coming up for you. And it really, really helps us to move through these things, because we're always going to be pushing up against the boundaries of something. We cannot control situations in our lives. We cannot control people in our lives, but we love to have that illusion of control because it keeps us feeling safe. But we can really move through that when we have the tools at our disposal. And the oils are so amazing to help us move through these, because they put us at that vibration of the emotion that we're trying to move into. And all it is really is, like, for me, that was applying over the heart. For some people, that's applying over the shoulders if they're feeling like, they're feeling very burdened. Wherever on the body feels right for you, if it's the feet, if it's the lower back, wherever it is that you're feeling, maybe physically even, the emotion that's coming up for you, and working and moving through that. So let me know how this lands for you, if you found it helpful, or if you want a little bit more clarification on it. Don't be afraid to reach out to me, and thank you so much for watching.